In a week of lockdown now, and today on Sport SA Daily Diaries, we'll be chatting to the voice behind the IronMan, the voice behind the Cape Epic, Paul Kaye. Good morning, and we're on day 7 of the lockdown. It's flying by, well, slightly. And today on Sport SA Daily Diary, we're joined by the man, the voice behind the IronMan, the voice behind the Absa Cape Epic, the man that gets everybody over that finish line, Mr. Paul Kaye. How are you today, sir?
I need to correct you. I'm one of the voices. I'm fantastic. I've just jumped off my indoor trainer after doing a 80-minute session. I got to tell you, Adam, I rode bicycle for the first time at the age of 4 when I was growing up in Hillcrest in Durban, very close to the route that you were supposed to be running in June, young man. Any case, I've always ridden bike, and then kind of like, in the 20s, got very busy at work and stopped doing exercise. Then in my 30s, realized I was mortal, started getting fit again, been riding even more in my 40s, and in my 50s now, really wanting to stay fit. But I've never, ever, ever ridden an indoor trainer. I bought my indoor trainer late 2016 after my knee surgery, thinking I would use it to get fit and to rehabilitate my knee. And I never ever used it. And thank you, COVID-19 coronavirus, because you have got me on my indoor trainer, and it is brutal.
Different to being on the road?
Oh, completely different, and even different to like the watt bike in the gym or a spinning bike. It's just so different. And it's not, I suppose it's many things. It's the environment. So what I've done is I've converted our garage into like an indoor gym. I've got a TRX, I got a small set of dumbbells, I've got stretchy cords, I've got one of those Bosun balls or whatever you call it, those half balls, and then I've got this old giant turbo trainer that I've got the bike on. At the gym, you can be distracted. You can watch everybody else doing their thing, either doing it right or doing it wrong. Doing it right, you learn from them. Doing it wrong, you have a bit of an inside giggle. But there's always distractions. And on the watt bike also, you're focusing on the numbers, But here I'm sitting on an indoor trainer that was last used by Noah on the Ark. And there's no numbers. I mean, all I've got is perceived effort and my heart rate. And every day that's a bit different. And it's brutal when you're just staring at a blank wall. And the only thing really keeping you going is knowing that you've got way too much time on your hands. And what are you going to do with all that time? And the fact that I don't want to lose my fitness, because I've been training to do an Ironman 70.3 race in Graz in Austria, which 2 days ago was announced that it's not happening on the scheduled date anymore, and that they're looking for a new date. And I'm desperately trying to not lose that fitness, because I've used that race as a carrot dangling in front of me to get fit, number one, but number two, to raise money for charity. And so I still want to follow through. For those people who've donated towards the charity is 145,000 Rand already. So I just want to keep fit so that when we emerge out of this lockdown, that hopefully I can get out there, and even if I have to do it on my own at home, I can do the race.
Yeah. Paul, you mentioned that the race in Austria is going to be postponed, delayed, whatever. I mean, once this thing is over, the sporting calendar is either going to be the most chock-a-block thing ever, or it's just going to be a complete mess. These events are just postponing, and I saw yesterday Wimbledon was cancelled. Do you actually think we're going to get a full calendar in of sporting events this year?
It's so hard to make that call, because like if you look at mass participation events, so look at Ironman, look at Cape Epic, Cycle Tour, luckily happened, Comrades coming up. Let's look at, the big marathons around the world. Not only do they have to try and find another date, also the people training for these events in lockdown, it's very, very difficult to train properly. I mean, for a triathlon at home, all I've got is the bike. And for your international fans who will watch this, they might not know that in South Africa, we're not allowed to even leave our property to walk the dogs, let alone go for a run. So how do you train properly for the run? It's not like I have a treadmill at home. And how do you train for the swim? You know, and that's just talking triathlon. If you're training for a marathon, I mean, the other day I ran 2 kilometers in my driveway. I was dizzy because I did circles, and it's impossible. So I think there are so many factors affecting the global sporting calendar. I think we also need to take into account, how is the coronavirus going to change the world? So I keep thinking about that. And I think about the impact that 9/11 had on our lives. Just think on how international and domestic travel changed. The security restrictions at airports, the fact that the devices you and I are speaking on now have GPS on them. All two-way comms devices had GPS after 9/11, so that these various conversations people are having, the naughty people, that they can be traced in some form or shape. And in South Africa, the mobile phone is being used to trace people who have the virus, who come into contact with other people, so that they can quarantine those other people. But I digress. So I think to myself, the world is changing, and that's going to impact the sporting calendar, because will we be able to travel as freely as we did? Will we be able to cross borders as freely as we did? Are we going to sit in airplanes the way we've always used to, where you sit shoulder to shoulder? You know, what better way to transmit disease? So I think about all these things, and I go, 2020 is definitely not going to be what we expected. And I would imagine the ripple effect will go into 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think so. I mean, already the Olympics is postponed to next year. Now there's other competitions in 2021 that are being pushed to 2022. It's a tough call. Do you actually cancel or do you postpone? Paul, you you say you're one of many voices. To me, you are certainly the voice. People relate, you know, when they think Absa Cape Epic and they think announcer, they think you. And I can only presume the Ironman's the same. I haven't actually been to an Ironman. How did you get into this role? I mean, it's very different, and you've really made a niche for yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. There are very few full-time professional announcers across the world. South Africa's produced some very good ones. We've got Max Kluwer, you know, who does incredible things on the UCI BMX and mountain biking scene. I'm very blessed to be on the Ironman scene, on the mountain biking scene, in the Epic series. You know, you've got Gordon Graham, who lives in Natal now. He's transitioned beautifully to announcing around the world at Ironman events. You've got Mike Riley, who invented the words "You are an Ironman," and you know, but Mike, even though he's globally known at Ironman, being an announcer was a hobby for Mike. It's what he did, what he does on the side, over and above his real job. I started as a radio DJ at the age of 20 here in Cape Town at Good Hope FM. In those days, it was called Radio Goeie Hoop Stereo. I left university after not being very successful, and went straight to Good Hope FM, was a DJ there from 1997. And in 97, I transitioned from behind the microphone to behind the desk. I became the station manager. But during that time as a radio DJ, I DJ'd on weekends, and during the week, I was a rep for my dad in the photographic industry. But then I started doing the sports reports Monday to Friday on the morning breakfast show and the afternoon drive. So I do my weekend show, and I did the sports reports. And I've always loved sport, despite not being hugely athletically gifted or sporty myself. Through doing the sports reports and being a DJ, I got asked to come and be the announcer at the national championships for inflatable powerboat racing. That was 1st and 2nd December 1990 at Club Mykonos in Langebaan. And what did I know about rubber duck racing? Nothing. But my goodness, it was a baptism of fire, because, you know, Rob Lowe, when he quit his rugby career, he went into boat racing as well. As a matter of fact, him and his brother, they manufactured boats. And in one of the first heats on that Sunday morning, Rob fell out of his boat and got run over by another boat and got cut to shreds by the propeller of the other boat. Mike Watermeyer, the late Mike Watermeyer, pulled him out of the water into his boat, raced him onto the beach. And in those days, we had the John Rolfe life-saving helicopters. They were called, flew to Longabon, put Rob into the chopper, flew him to hospital, and I think they put something like 12 liters of blood into Rob Lowe. And he survived, as you well know, and became a wonderful advocate for blood transfusion in South Africa. So that was my baptism of fire into announcing. And then, you know, you talk about the 10,000-hour rule. For about 7 years thereafter, pretty much every weekend throughout the summer, I was commentating rubber duck races all around the Western Cape in South Africa, and kind of learnt my trade. And during that time, got more busy on air, gave up being a rep, went full-time into radio, did weekday shows, and then started doing a bit of TV. I did a program that was called AM Today. I was the Cape Town anchor. And that's how I kind of sharpened my tools, if you call it, in terms of presenting, being an announcer. And not a lot of people transition from studio to live like that. But I actually really enjoyed the environment. And then I started commentating triathlon for the Old Mutual World of Endurance. And through that, I got invited to do my first triathlon, which was in Mauritius in 2000, funny enough, on the weekend of my 30th birthday, and completely fell in love with endurance sports, very much into triathlon. And then at the same time, I joined Touchline Media. I was the publisher of Runners World and Bicycling. That's how I met Keith and Paul at IronMan. And boom, look at me now.
That's fantastic. Paul, I mean, as you say, you've seen a lot from powerboating to the lot. Is there a moment in sporting history where you've been present, you've been an announcer, that's really stood out, something that was probably a memorable moment that you can say, that is something I remember from my career?
I tell you, Adam, I get asked that kind of question a lot, and my whole body's just covered in goose flesh now as I think about it, because if you consider the finish line of a Cape Epic, you consider the finish line of a Comrades Marathon, which I've worked at as well, and Two Oceans as well, and if you consider the finish line of an Ironman, just to name those events, just a handful of them, you're dealing with ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Yeah. So essentially, every finisher is an incredible moment for every single one of them. Obviously, there's some that really stand out. I was privileged to be, on the finish line both times when Barry Stander won the Cape Epic, the late Barry Stander. And I was on the finish line when four-time Ironman world champion Chrissie Wellington raced in South Africa in 2011 and set an Ironman world best time for 226 kilometers of swim, bike, run. I've been on the finish line of a Volvo Ocean race in St. Petersburg, where they open up all the bridges and these beautiful Volvo Open 60s come sailing into St. Petersburg and come and finish, after sailing around the world. I've been on the finish line in Ali Drive, which is, the Ironman World Championship, where you see Jan Frodeno setting the world's best time. You see Anna Haugen, only her fourth Ironman, become Ironman World Champion. So there are so many of these moments, but I suppose some of the most amazing moments are the ordinary people, the Team Garwood, which is Kevin and Nikki Garwood, father and his cerebral palsy son, finishing an Ironman, which is incredible to witness. Too many moments to pick one, I'm blessed that every finisher is a moment, and every finish line is a special moment. And that's what inspires me. That's what makes my job and my time behind the microphone so incredibly enjoyable.
I must say, I remember from the Epic a few years ago, we had, I think they were called Team Too Large, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And it was
wow.
the team of two ordinary guys who weighed 260 kilograms between the two of them. And I think I spoke to you on the prologue, and you said you don't think they would finish the prologue. And
I would never have said.
It was one of our little private chats. And you said you don't think they'll finish the prologue, but they did. And they just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And their seeding got better and better and better. And I mean, they were two phenomenal guys. And they were well built, from Farm boys.
Suited to the descents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look,
Absolutely.
Adam, I mean, let's just talk about the Cape Epic. You talk about Team Too Large. It's events like this that inspire people like them to get off the couch and change their lives.
100%.
And that is my greatest blessing, is that I get to be a part of witnessing people change their lives almost every weekend throughout the year at races around the world. And that's incredibly motivating and incredibly inspirational. I just look at last year, Gustav, the oldest man in the race, and he crashes and comes down the finish line of Val de Vie full of blood, but he didn't stop. And you well know, you used to be with APSA, marketing efforts I've ever seen specifically around an event was, the spirit of the human nature and the power of human nature. Standard Bank at IronMan, they always talked about you never stop moving forward. That's so true. And the power of and the spirit of the human nature is incredible. And if we take that to what we're going through now with the coronavirus, locally and around the world, it's our spirit and the power of our human nature never stopping forward that's going to get us through this. And I firmly believe endurance athletes and athletes in general, I think we kind of have an advantage because we understand that even when things get really, really bad, and when you're in your darkest moment, and you'll know this from running the comrades yourself, you go through times when you think you can't. You think it's impossible. There's no ways you'll finish. But you don't stop moving forward. And that ability to keep going is how you succeed. And that's how we will win. And that's how we will emerge on the other side of this. My only hope is that we'll emerge on the other side of this as better people, having learned some lessons and taking away from this the beauty of hearing the birds sing at the moment, and the lack of traffic, and the reduced pollution around the world, and the fact that we don't need as much as we think we need, the reduced consumption. And despite our social and physical distancing, I'm seeing people connect so fantastically like you and I are right now. And let's embrace that, and let's make more of that and less of the bad that got us to this situation.
Absolutely, Paul. It's been awesome to chat, and again, I wish we could chat all afternoon, and I'll switch off, stop recording, and we can carry on. I've been watching your facts about Paul every day, and looking forward to seeing what today's one is going to be, and then as we go on. But Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been great to chat to you, and great insight, and it's always nice to see the person behind the scenes. It's sport is not always only about the person on the field. There's so much more to it. So Paul, thank you for joining us.
Adam, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for showcasing the sporting personalities and heroes in this country.
Absolutely. Tomorrow on day 8 of Sport SA Daily Diary, we'll be joined by fielding cricketing phenomenon Jonty Rhodes. So we're looking forward to that and finding out a bit more about what he's doing now. Paul, great to chat, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Aloha.
Tomorrow's Sports SA Daily Diary will be chatting to ex-Proteas cricketer Jonty Rhodes.